Hey, everybody, it's Megan Hyatt Miller here. And hey, just a reminder, the Double Win Show is taking the summer off. Hope you have great things planned for the summer. But listen, we will be back in early September with some brand new episodes that are fantastic. We can't wait to share those with you. In the meantime, we're going to be sharing some of our very best episodes from the past few years. You're not going to want to miss them. And I bet you haven't listened to all these yet, but you're going to want to. So here's one of those now.
When you set out to win an argument, you often will lose the relationship. Like if you only see it as something to win, that means you're going to lose a lot more.
Hi, I'm Michael Hyatt.
And I'm Megan Hyatt Miller.
And you're listening to The Double Win Show.
Today, we have a really fun conversation with our friend, Jefferson Fisher. If you don't know, Jefferson Fisher is that guy on Instagram who is a trial attorney who gives you advice on communication. And so if you're not an Instagram person, you got to check him out.
He's got 5 million social media followers.
It's like everybody.
5 million.
Like women across the globe are in love with him. That's what we know, including maybe my own mother. I don't know.
Well, definitely your own mother. But speaking for the men, we really just respect him.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he's just so amazing.
He's so amazing. And we got to know him at a mastermind that we went to in Charleston, hosted by our friend Stu McLaren for business owners like us. And Jefferson got thrown into the deep end because that's not his world. And he got to learn a lot about the world he was getting ready to go into because he has recently published a book all about communication called The Next Conversation, Argue Less, Talk More. And this book is fantastic. You want to get it.
At the time of recording this,
Yes.
It's been on the New York Times list for 3 weeks now.
Yeah, it's like number 5
Yep.
as of today on the New York Times list. And he really talks about how can you communicate in ways that ultimately preserve relationships, certainly are persuasive, but that preserve relationships. You know, it's not just about winning. It's not just about, kind of being the victor at an end of a conversation, but like, what do we do with all these stressful, tense conversations that it feels like we find ourselves in more and more? That's really what this book is all about. So Jefferson has a podcast called the Jefferson Fisher Podcast. It is the world's #1 podcast on communication. He has lots of people on his email list. He is still a practicing trial attorney in Texas. It's crazy to me. I'm like, where do you find the time, my friend? But most importantly, he is a dedicated father. He has 2 kids who are 5 and 7. And he is on a personal mission to bring peace through better communication, which is not the kind of thing you would think a trial attorney would say. And we get into that. So this is a great conversation. You're going to love it. You're going to learn a ton of things that you can apply today to your hardest conversations.
And right out of the box, you're going to learn why you should never win an argument. Here's Jefferson. Jefferson, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here.
I am so excited about this conversation because, of course, I've been reading your book and you've put together some things that I didn't expect. And I guess I kind of thought, well, it's just going to be a compilation of his Instagram, reels, but it's not that at all. I mean, there's some of that in there, but it really gives a whole communication construct that I think is enormously helpful.
Thank you very much. I'm really glad to hear you say that. That was the intent. I think there was an expectation that I was just going to simply regurgitate a lot of my videos, but this is where I wanted to tell people, no, there's an actual science and structure. And if you follow this, you don't need to watch any of my videos. You can start making your own. That was kind of the point.
Well, I still think a compilation of all your videos in print form would be enormously helpful.
Kind of like a devotional, but like Jefferson.
Or like the physician's desk reference.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
We had to just back up. I know we talked about this a little bit on our intro, but we actually know Jefferson. We got to hang out for a few days and really get to know each other back, like we said, in December of 2024. And we just had so much fun getting to know you and learning about your real life, so to speak, your life outside of Instagram, your family, what you do, in your day job, which we'll talk about here in a second. But I think that was really fun. A lot of times, yeah, we did. A lot of times, somebody online, and then you get to know them in person. You're like secretly like, well, they're nothing like, they are. But you were like the real deal. Like, I feel like if I met you at, our kids' baseball game, they were playing each other, like you're the same person. And I think that's just a cool a cool thing to
Thank
say,
you.
since probably a lot of people who are
Oh,
talking to you, they don't
yeah.
know you, So
That's a huge compliment. Thank you. No, we had a lot of fun. I remember laughing a whole lot, and I can't believe that was just December. I mean, that feels like it was 8 years ago.
I think that you and my husband Joel ate your weight in oysters at a little seafood place
He
in
did
South
for
Carolina. Yeah,
sure.
he definitely did.
I think I ended up watching him,
I mean, I think he
eat
maybe ate
all of the
20,
oysters.
maybe more. I don't know. I mean, we were all like, okay,
He
this is
he
about to
was
be a world record.
he was definitely over the legal limit.
He was over the legal limit of
Oh, yeah,
oysters.
no, yeah, somebody should have stopped him. That
Yeah.
honestly, that was on the waiter. He was overserved,
He was
truly.
way overserved. I'm just going to tell you,
Yeah,
after
yeah,
16
yeah.
years of marriage, I just put my hands
There's
up
probably
and
a
say,
lawsuit there.
yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah. No, I think that restaurant should be investigated for, their oyster license because that was uncalled for. It really was how much they were serving him. But no, we had a wonderful time,
We
and
did.
to get to see y'all again is
Yes.
a true joy.
Okay, growing up in Texas,
Mm.
all the family in the biz. Just give us the background.
Yeah, so I am a fifth generation trial attorney. I grew up in a small town in Southeast Texas. In fact, I still live in that small town. Where we have biggest stores, the Walmart, that services probably 8 different towns, and we have a Chili's. And so that's really where we're at. And I'm the oldest of 4, so I grew up here. I rode the bus, you know what I mean? Like I walked home from the stop sign. That was probably a half a mile. It felt like half a mile. It probably wasn't that long, but look at me, I'm already sounding like my dad. So anyway,
Barefoot in the snow, both
yeah, yeah,
directions,
I know. All of a
uphill.
sudden, yeah, I need to make it really cold and miserable. So yeah, my dad's an attorney. His dad's an attorney. So I grew up around law, where some kids got picked up, taken to a playground after school or home. A lot of times, I got picked up and dropped to my dad's deposition, where he would finish his deposition because my mom couldn't pick me up. My dad did whatever the schedule was. They didn't want me to be home alone for whatever that. This was before they just left me at home, and I would just listen to the rest of his deposition while I'm doodling on a yellow notepad. And then it got to me watching his trials and courtrooms and closing arguments, and that developed a lot of, in my life, what I saw and how I saw arguments and how I saw him be very much the someone who is more of a diplomat in conversations. My dad is not somebody who's very quick to anger, and I have a lot of that same personality. My mother is extremely kind, and I loved being the big brother. Loved being the oldest of 4. Still do. There's 11 years difference between me and my youngest brother Jacob. And I after college, law school, um, my wife is my high school sweetheart, and we have this world now where you go, how in the world did he get started in these videos? Well, I had been working at a law firm for close to 10 years. I had made partner there. Mind you, this is the same law firm where my dad was. I had a lot of different offers at different law firms. I really liked his firm. I still consider his firm one of the most prestigious in our area. And I wanted to do my own thing. Probably a lot of it was I'm, mid 20s. I think I can do everything better, know everything better. And if I was in charge, it all run differently kind of thing. But a lot of it, I just felt creatively stale. And so I thought, well, I want to do my own thing. And when I started my law firm, that was beginning of 2022. At the same time, I thought, well, I guess I ought to be on social media. I mean, that's probably a good place to start. Well, how do I do it? I Googled so many things. And I first started talking about what to do after a car accident, talk about legal things in my videos. And then I thought, well, this doesn't feel very good. It really doesn't feel very good. I'm just selling myself. And by the way, not everybody needs a personal injury attorney. Most people don't. I mean, who needs one until you're hurt? And so I thought, well, what do I want my legacy to be? What do I want my kids to remember? And I thought, well, I'll tell people what I know better than anybody in my world, what I can share. And that's how to communicate better, how to help their arguments, how to help them communicate. And I started my lessons, my little videos in my car by myself on how to argue like a lawyer, part one. And then after that, it just started slowly taking off. And I'm still learning lessons every day. I still don't really know what I'm doing, figuring it out.
How much of what you teach and talk about and sort of your whole philosophy of communication did you pick up by osmosis? In other words, did you
Yeah.
observe your dad and your grandfather doing these things like taking a breath, doing a body
Mm.
scan, doing the small talk thing? Or is that something that you sort of distilled from watching them?
A lot of that is not them. Yeah, I would say the breath for sure is my dad. They just hadn't put it in that kind of form. My grandfather is very different than my dad.
Hmm.
So my dad takes after his mother, who is much more thoughtful. My grandfather is quick to rise, and he's hilarious. But he's a wonderful storyteller. Probably the best storyteller I've ever been around in my life, and probably ever will be.
You're pretty good yourself.
And no, thank you. But he's just I'll never forget when the day I was married. We had all the guys were together, and my grandfather's just holding court. I mean, he has all these young guys, and my groomsmen, they're just enraptured by his stories. He has hunting stories for days, and so they're all just enthralled. They're like, "This guy's your grandfather?" I was like, "Yeah." Anyway, the question is, how did I get this approach? How did I learn a lot of this stuff? To me, it's one, I understand it's a gift, and it's truly my joy, my blessing to share it. It's something that I believe my parents prayed for. I will always credit that. Two, I have parents that were very intentional in how they handled communication with me. And I would say too, if I learned at a very early age, I'm the typical prototype oldest, the firstborn, the heavy responsibilities, grow up very
We are
quickly. I
too.
became
Yeah.
responsible. Yeah, there you go. So like when I'm 16, I'm driving all of my siblings to school. I have my youngest brother's spelling words, going over those with him, asking my younger brother, did he finish his reading assignment? Helping Sarah get her backpack together. Like this, I am like, I might as well have had a minivan full of everything dropping all of my children off.
I did have a minivan. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then
Yeah.
there you go. Yeah. Well, mine was. It was quickly a Suburban,
Yep.
so
Same.
I inherited the family's '96. But I loved it. I loved it, and so a lot of the stuff I talk about in the book, first part of the book, the small talks, the scans, a lot of that's my own thing that I found and grew and learned in the early part of my
Mm.
career that helped transform me from someone who is trying to prove everything, prove myself, prove
Yeah.
this, prove that, that turned into no, I know who I am. No, I know the respect will come later. You don't have to prove it right now. You just continue to be consistent. You continue to be disciplined. And that's where a lot of those things came from.
I think one of the things that would be good for people to know that this book is really for anybody that finds themselves in a stressful conversation. I don't know
Yeah.
if you want to expand that a little bit, but it's definitely that. And I found your whole connection with nervous system regulation and all that. We'll talk about that here in a minute. Was fascinating. But you also say in the book, you say never win an argument.
Which is a funny thing to hear from a trial attorney. I mean, like literally that's your
I
whole
know.
job, in a way, right? Is to win. And so it sounds like counterintuitive. And I'd love for you to just unpack that for our community.
The never win an argument mindset is something I believe so strongly in because I have seen the opposite turn out to be false every single time, where you always set out to win. And there are books that are titled Win Every Argument. There are blogs, How to Win Every Argument. And I would read those and just shake my head because I just see that as such just snake oil salesman. Just this, how could you possibly try and teach this to people? Because that's just not real life. It's not real life. Even as an attorney, people say, look, don't you win every argument? No, absolutely not. Nothing's in a vacuum. As an attorney, I don't really win arguments. I have facts. I can't choose my own facts. that when a client comes in, they have to give me what the problem is, and I have to run with that. I got to play the cards that are dealt. Same thing with the law. I can't change the law. I can't choose which law applies. It's not like you get a choice A, B, C, D, all the above. Like you are confined to a set of parameters, and you have to do what you can do best, which is advocate for your client based on the parameters that are set. And you have a judge, you have a court reporter, you have a bailiff, you have opposing counsel, and you have 12 jurors, or maybe 6 if you're in a county court. And it's up to them, the decision makers, to apply what you give to the law under the rules of evidence to come to a decision, period. You see how many layers there are? It's
Mhm.
not just what I say. Now, I will say there's a huge power in the influence I have over a jury. And it has little to do with what I say, but it has almost everything to do with how I make them feel, how I carry myself, how my client carries him or herself. It is all this micro details. It's not this big. The person who comes in and is grandiose, just slinging, thinking they're everything, they're the one that's going to lose almost every time. The person who thinks that they have it all prepared, the person who comes in with the shiny, the fancy suit, Rolex, shiniest shoes you've ever seen, that came in their Mercedes, I'll show you that's an attorney who will lose, because it's not relatable to a jury. Never is. In fact, I'll even tell you this: some of the best trial attorneys that I've seen, of course, they make lots of money, but they also don't go to court in that vehicle. They have other vehicles that are old and used that they keep. They've had their whole life. This is like the vehicle they had
That's
when they first started
hilarious.
out, because they don't want the jury to see it. And so they won't wear their fanciest stuff. They won't drive wear all their fancy stuff. They will be as normal as they can possibly be, because that is relatable. So it's funny how even when you pull into that parking lot in front of the courtroom, you are on display at all
Huh.
times. And so the jurors will watch every move that you make.
So why do you say never win an argument? Because that's kind of like all of us fantasize. 5 minutes after we've had the argument, we're like thinking through what we should have said or what we could have
Right.
said, which, by the way, goes to the title of the book. But
Yeah.
yeah, just back that up a little bit.
The question is, do you always want to win an argument? When you set out to win an argument, you often will lose the relationship. Like if you only see it as something to win, that means you're going to lose a lot more. Let's ask the question of, what have you won? Okay, I said the thing that hurts you. I said the one thing that took it too far. Now you're leaving the room. Now you want to hang up the phone. Now you're the one who's upset, and I'm the one left standing there alone. What have you? Congrats. What have you got? Now you've most likely won to be the first to apologize. Really, that's what you've won. In
That's so
in
true.
relationships, especially like at married, you've won to be the first to apologize. The one who's the last, the
Yeah.
one who says the
100%.
thing the last, who has to be the last one to get the word. You're first up to apologize. Congrats. Swing away. Like it is just this mentality that we have to have of being competitive in conversation and heated arguments, where that's you will lose that. You're going to lose their respect, you're going to lose their trust, and over time you're going to lose their relationship. I mean, who wants to be around the person who always has to be right? I mean, who that is somebody who is lonely. I
Mhm.
mean, that is somebody who will eventually isolate themselves out, because nobody's going to want to be around that person. What I teach, and the whole thesis of this book, is instead of seeing arguments as something to win, you see them as something to unravel. I mean, you're going to take the loose ends. Like if there's a direct string between me and y'all, and I'm saying, no, you have to go my way. And you're saying, no, you have to go my way. Well, all that knot does is it gets tighter and tighter. And the harder we pull and the longer we pull, the harder it becomes to undo, the harder it becomes to unravel. And sometimes it takes a whole day to unravel it. Maybe it takes a week before emotions die down and you're willing to look at it. Or sometimes, you know what? It's over a year. Some people haven't spoken to their adult child or their parent and whatever it is. And it happens to the closest of people.
Mhm.
They haven't spoken in years because of how tight they made that knot. And so that's that. The quicker you are to apologize, the quicker you are to start seeing where they're coming from, that knot never tightens.
Okay, Jefferson, I have to play devil's advocate for a second. So there are times that you want to persuade someone. Maybe there's a lot at stake. Maybe there's something really important that needs to happen. Um, my husband and I are dealing with this right now in an extended family situation. But in a situation where you do want to persuade somebody, it's not about winning per se, but you need to move them maybe for their own best interest. First of all, is that valid? Second of all, how is that different from like winning an argument? And do you help people learn how to be more persuasive, but in a way that ultimately is good for a relationship?
Great question. Winning has to do with I'm the last one standing and I have won. That's very different from we need to take action and I need your cooperation, or I need you to understand and I need to connect with you on the action that's going to be taken. Winning says, I have no respect really for your feelings. I have no respect for your point of view. I'm willing to say whatever it takes for you to go away. And that, as you know, that has the fight or flight. It's this mindset of I am going to be the king of the rock, whatever it is, the king of the mountain, the king of the hill, the person that's left here. I'm the one that is right. You're the one that is wrong. Got it? That's winning. The mindset of we have a choice to make, and either you're going to be with me on this choice or you're not. Either way, it's going to be fine with me. I'm still going to respect you. I'm still going to understand you. I'm still going to hear your opinion. Like my dad would put it to me this way growing up. If I disagreed with something, let's say I'm 17, a lot of things I think I know the way of the world, and I would disagree with what he'd say. Anytime I would complain, he'd say, well, you don't have to like it. You just got to understand it. I mean, it would be his like way of telling me, hey, feel free to disagree. This is what we're going to do. And and so it was such a good lesson. Now I didn't appreciate it, I can promise you that. But now I have the hindsight of saying he gave me the freedom to disagree, and it took all the fight out of it. It was I'm giving you a chance to connect with me. I'm giving you a chance to understand where we're going, and that's the key with connection. Is I can still disagree with you and still connect with you. I can still be unhappy. I can still be mad at you and still connect with you. So if you need to come to a mutual decision on something, that's very different. That is more of a coordinated dance,
Hmm.
um, where there's going to be an exit from this. A win of an argument says, I am pushing you out of it. Very different.
Very
Very
different.
helpful. It's interesting to me, actually fascinating, that you started with control and you really dive into nervous system regulation and explaining that. And it's something, frankly, we've had guests on to talk about that. And we've done fair amount of study ourselves on that. But I never considered it in the context of communication,
Yeah.
which is kind of odd because it's like probably the most important thing, which I guess that's why you started with it first. But can you unravel that?
The whole point of why rule number one in the book is say it with control is because if you do not have control, well, then none of the rest matters. It doesn't matter how quick of a statement I could give you, a twist of the word, a way to reframe. It doesn't matter a lick if you do not have control. And what people are so quick to forget is that you are in complete control of the pace of the conversation. And I say that because I prepare hundreds of clients for their deposition. And they get into this mentality of, well, if this person's asking me a question, this attorney's asking me a question, I need to have a rapid fire response, or I need to be on the ready, or anything. And I have to continually remind them and say, no, 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 no. Listen, you are in control of the conversation. They can't ask a question faster than you can respond to it. There is nothing they can do to make you respond faster. Do you understand that? There's nothing anybody can do to force you to say something, force you to speak. It is all within your time frame and timetable. And the sooner that people understand that, almost innately, the more in control they feel of themselves. Of, you can ask me a question and I can choose to not answer it at all. I can choose to answer it in 5 seconds. I can choose anything that I want, but it's that pause that you can throw in there that truly is a game changer in all of your communication. But you have to say it with control.
What is the value of that? If you go at the other person's pace and sort of the natural trajectory of an argument, what's at stake there versus doing it the way you're talking about, putting a pause in?
When you don't put in a pause, when you don't add your breath, when you don't say it with control, you end up reacting rather than responding. It's just your natural fight or flight will take over, and you're going to start responding more emotionally. So attorneys will do this thing where we will start to ask questions faster, and you'll start to respond faster. That means you're thinking about your answer less, which means I'm probably getting the answer I want. And so whenever I can get you in this rhythm, the yes, no, okay, I don't know, like it's faster I can get you in that rhythm, the more the more I got you, the more I know I can lead you where I want to lead you. The witness I need to cross-examine. If I ask them a question and they immediately go, yes, yeah, no, yeah, I think that's true, yes. That quickness, like, okay, they're not listening. But the witness who goes, yeah, I think so. I think so. That right there, I'm like, oh dang, okay, this is somebody who I can't do anything with. It doesn't matter what I say, they're going to actually listen to what I'm asking them. And it's a much different. It's the same thing when I'm the one questioning the other attorney, or I'm seeing another attorney. If there's another attorney who's asking questions and he's rapid fire, sometimes he's not really thinking of hearing what the witness is saying because he's looking down at his next question. Right. Same thing with like people who interview. They're not really listening to the person. They're worried like, what's going to be my next question.
Yep.
Attorneys do that too. And I know it's a good attorney if they have their notes and they just push them off to the side and they're just looking at my witness and they're taking their time before question. I'm like, dang, okay. They're
Here it
really they're
comes.
locked in. Yeah, there's somebody that you already know. Okay, you better be on your game.
Well, it seems like in a personal relationship too, it just really keeps it from escalating. Because once
Yeah.
you get into that fight or
Yeah.
flight thing, it spirals out of control.
I had this actually happen recently. I was in a conversation, in a professional conversation, and it started to escalate. And it was kind of one of those things where it's like you're sort of having an out of body experience in your head, like, what's happening right now? Like, what I
Mhm.
said this, but why is the other person responding like that? And I was on the more regulated end, but I was feeling myself kind of escalate. And I thought to myself in my own head, okay, wait a second, we are now in a place of fight or flight in this conversation. Like the other person is not even hearing what I'm saying, is not able to
Mhm.
respond. Like something else has gotten triggered here. And I realized I need to sort of be, like in nervous system language, like I need to be the co regulator of, I need to slow my voice down. I need to
Mhm.
make sure I'm breathing and relaxing my body. And I need to talk in ways that are very intentionally non threatening because we're not even talking about what we're talking about anymore. But it was like just
Mhm.
such an interesting moment of like, the kindest thing that I can do in this situation, because it really wasn't an argument between us. It was about something else, was to take control of the situation by getting myself regulated so I could let them sort of borrow that regulation that they couldn't access in that moment. And that was kind of a profound realization of
Hmm.
it's not just being in control for my own sake, for to be more persuasive or to just kind of maintain my own
Mhm.
equilibrium. But sometimes, people can get triggered in conversations for reasons that really don't have anything to do with you and they
Oh
need
my
your
goodness,
help,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, and I even to your point, I mean the mutual benefit, the double benefit of the pause before you say anything. What I teach is let your breath be the first word that you say. When you do take the pause, the other benefit is not only does it calm yourself down, it calms the other person down. So sometimes I might pause before I say something Not so much to even control what I say, it's to make the other person slow down. Because when you
Yeah.
can tell they're getting triggered, they're getting worked up, they're starting to raise their voice. And when you add in that space, they understand and they hear that they're going to have to come down to match my energy, and
Yeah.
that's going to always equal a much better conversation.
By the way, this works with toddlers too.
Oh yeah.
If you have young kids, you're doing this all the time, or either positively or negatively. But, I've had this moment so many times with my own kids where you have to be the one to regulate the conversation down. Cause my gosh, if you follow them, you're going to be on the floor kicking and screaming
Oh my
like they
gosh,
are
so
before you
true.
know it.
With regard to control, you kind of have that three-part framework, right?
Mm.
Starts with the breath. One of the things that I find is difficult is I can be swept up into an argument and very self-unaware of what's happening. But you've got a way to prevent against that you talk about in small talk. So could you unpack that?
Yeah, they're these little things I call small talks. There's nothing fancy to it. It's simply a talk that you have with yourself. If there's one person you should know better than anyone, it should be yourself. That's a statement in and of itself. You doing that on inner work. But small talks are these phrases that begin with a verb that help ground you in conversation. And it started with, I was in trial. I would write things at the top of my notepad that would ground me. And these are little things like "You be Jefferson" or "Let the facts speak for themselves." Little things that would help center me in conversation. Now, I'm not saying every person in every conversation is like, well, I need to have this granola woo-woo moment where I, have this enlightenment before I have this conversation. No, it's something short and simple. And you want to begin with a verb. Maybe it's as simple as be assertive or stand up straight or stand firm or be still. Little things that you can say to yourself when you feel that you're coming undone. Everybody has these arguments where all of a sudden you feel unsteady. I feel like I'm
Mhm.
spiraling. I feel like I'm coming unraveled. These moments where it's not great. And these small talks are just something to help guide you. One of my favorites is a client that I had. She's so sweet, and she was always very timid, but her grandmother was not. Her grandmother name was Doris, and she'd get all sassy. She'd say she had no problem telling somebody what she thought. And whenever she would get on a tear, her husband, my client's grandfather, would say, "You tell him, Doris. You tell him, Doris." That would be their line. I'm sure he's got, I can already see it. Like he's got his paper, not even looking up at her, and she's going on about something. He'd say, you tell it, Doris. Yeah, you got it. That was her small talk. And so whenever she felt like, no, you know what? I do need to say something. I do need to, I'm not going to just say yes or okay when that's just not the truth. And so that was her small talk. You tell him, Doris. And I loved it.
That's hilarious. What a great story.
Yeah.
Well, I think it goes to the fact that we need to be more thoughtful in these
Mm,
conversations, particularly the ones that are high stake and there's a lot of
right.
stress around it, or we have a lot of history, of conflict in that relationship. But I can think of one relationship that I have where unfortunately it devolves into political conflict. So much so that I said at one point, we're just never going to talk about politics again because it's just too nerve wracking.
Yeah.
And I think there's a way to have that conversation. And in fact, we have had a couple of subsequent conversations where it's been easier because I think that both of us have been more mindful of that.
Yeah. Being thoughtful is such an important just concept for any conversation, especially the difficult ones. Political arguments, political conversations tend to be so because we tie them to the collective. We believe that there is a good side and a bad side, and neither side is. We don't say there's a good side and a good side. One is bad, one is good, and the bad side is never ours. And we want to tie them to a bigger picture of no, this is the one that's winning, and the other says no, this is the side that's winning. Who is there ever a finish line? Is there ever a win? No, and not, it's always going to continue to go on. But I think some of it too is people desperately want to feel important and they want to feel right. And you add that with people who mostly talk politics, like my grandfather and his brother could not be any polar opposite on the political spectrum. And they do this thing where they'll get in a shouting match over politics that will never touch their life. Understand, nothing that's happening in politics is ever going to touch them. It's not going to change a bit about their world. It doesn't matter at all. They're just home all day thinking of things to grap about, and they will get to arguing with each other, and then they hang up. They hang up on each other. They get so mad they hang up, and by the afternoon, they call again, and then they're just as happy as could be, and they don't talk politics at all. And so, but I think some of it too, of especially older generations, they just want to feel like something matters, and they want to feel like they can get up in arms about something. I see this a lot, like older attorneys. They may not have that many clients. When I have them in hearings, boy, they can just be mean. And it's because you have to just kind of let them go because they're trying to feel alive in that moment. They're trying to feel like something they say is matters. And I have an opinion. And by God, I'm going to share that opinion. It's the only opinion that matters. And they can't really back it up, but who cares? And so I think that is exactly right. Being thoughtful in conversations is incredibly important. And knowing that when you can control yourself is the first step, because you can't control anything else about what they are doing. You can't control a thing of it. You can only control yourself, trying to bring them to match your energy.
One of the things I have learned after raising 5 daughters and my wife, so 6 very important
You
women in
didn't
my
really
life.
raise her,
I
though.
didn't raise her. She raised me, to be truth be
Yeah.
told. But at any rate, one of the things I've noticed, and they've maybe noticed this about me too, is that when they're upset, if I will just hold space to hear them out, it will burn out.
I love that when people say hold space, they really mean just be quiet.
Yeah, just
It's
shut
like,
up.
yeah. Which is true. I mean, I love the visual of, I'm just holding this space for you. I'm here. I'm present. This is a safe place. We got this. In practice, it just means I'm not saying a word. It means I am going to listen without trying to solve it, without trying to say, well, what you need to do is, like, any of that, you can just throw that out the window when you can simply listen. Easier said than done. What I try to teach my kids, whenever somebody is upset about something, you have to let them get it all out. It's this visual of, there's no way I could pour new thoughts into a glass that's already full. You got to let them pour it all out before they'll ever be willing to accept anything that you say. And that's particularly true with changing anyone's mind. You can't, you're not going to change somebody's mind in 2 sentences and say, what an idiot. How could you possibly think that? That's never going to get them to change their mind. They're never going to say, oh, you're so right. I am such an idiot. What did you say? Yeah, oh, yes, that's correct. Like, nobody's going to ever say that. And nobody can do it over one conversation. It's typically, it might take conversation after conversation over 6 months, over a year, before you can change somebody's mind.
Okay, I have 2 questions. The one I was planning to ask, and then something you said that got me really interested.
Okay.
So I'll start with the second one. I want to know how you handle arguments in your own house. And I bet
Oh,
our community does too. And then the second question is, you talk about this idea of having goals and values like going into conversation. So tell us
hmm
about that, because we love a goal and we love a
yeah,
conversation. So let's put them together. But first, tell us how you handle it at your house.
of course. Well, there's exceptions for everything, but we have what we call house rules, and that is, if my kids are arguing, now they're 5 and 7, all right, but if they're arguing, number one, I let them argue. Like, I don't try to stop it. I try to let them argue, because I truly think it's a wonderful training ground for them to be able to express themselves and to try it. So, I mean, they're stretching the limits of what they can say and what they can't say. Now,
It's good.
these rules mean you cannot say anything about their intelligence or say anything like a personal attack. You can't say someone's stupid. You can't say someone's anything that is harmful in that way. You can't put them down. It's more of a prove your point. And so we'll also sometimes have these debriefs of, okay, Ruby, my daughter's Ruby. So what are you trying to say? Okay, you hear how you just said that to him? Yeah. Okay. Well, what do you think he's going to think about that? He's not going to like it. Okay. And so, like, trying to teach how they're going to construct their argument. My son is much better at it than my daughter. One, he's older. Two, he's like a mini me. And she is my mini wife. And so sometimes I have to be like, Chet, I know what you're doing. Like, I know, because he can try it. Like, if he wants to get something, he'll come at it multiple different ways. I'm like, man, you think I don't know what you're doing? But the best thing about it is using that as a place for them to express. Like, if my son wants something, I'll say, tell me why. Tell me why I should say yes. I do that a lot. So he might want me to do something, and typically it's right before bed, of course.
Of course.
And
Of
I'll
course.
say, well, tell me why I should say yes to this. And I never allow them just to say, well, because I want you to. I'm like, that's not a good reason. I need you to tell me why. Convince me. And it's a great way to get them to think outside the box. And the one of my favorites that he landed on was, well, you don't want me to be sad because I'm your son. And if you don't do this, well, I think I'm going to be really sad. And like, what, when he said that, I was like, okay, that's fair. Every once in a while, they'll say something so good that I'm like, you know what? I gotta game respects game. I gotta allow it to you, because that was a really good argument. But yeah, it's teaching them of how the right way and the wrong way to try and persuade to get your point across. How do you communicate
Love that.
with each
Yeah,
other?
that's fantastic.
Yeah, and you say, okay, how do you add these to the values? How do you show up? What I believe in is that you need to have conversational values, meaning principles that guide yourself when things go unexpectedly in conversation. And they work the same way as a company value. Company decisions become easier when there's a company value. Values make the decisions for you. One of the principles of my law firm is biblical. It's feed his sheep. That's the commandment. And so I don't care if it doesn't make money. It's this idea of, does it fit with our value? Does it support our mission? If the answer is yes, then that's what we're going to do. Same thing with a conversational value. My mom taught me kindness. And so one of my values is, where there is kindness, I will use it. If there is room for kindness, I will use it. I don't have to worry about the snarky thing I'm going to say right back. I'm not going to have to worry about the zinger. The question is there room for kindness? If the answer is yes, then I will show it and I will use it. It just becomes easier.
Love that. Okay, I want to shift and talk about confidence. You said in the book that this is like I think you said this is the most common question you get. How could I be more
Yeah.
confident? And I thought you had some surprising and very practical advice for that.
Yeah, I get the question a lot. How can I be more confident? And people see it as something you need to have before a conversation. Well, I'm just building up the confidence to say this, or I wish I had the confidence to say X, Y, and Z. They got it wrong. This is the wrong way to look at it. It's the exact opposite. Confidence is the outcome. Confidence is the reward. Confidence is the consequence of doing the assertive thing. So what I teach is confidence is as assertive does, which
Love
is
that.
like, it's kind of that Forrest Gump, stupid is, stupid does kind of thing. Of this mentality of, when you say the assertive thing, when you can use your assertive voice, the result is confidence, because confidence is a feeling. It comes from something. If I were to say, I need you to be mad at me right now, you'd have a hard time getting mad at me. If I kicked you in your shin, you have no problem being mad at me. There is this, it comes from something. So confidence is not something you can just summon. Go, I need to be more confident, and I got it, and now I want to say the thing. It doesn't work like that. It's using your assertive voice to feel more confident.
You talk about over apologizing in that context. And could you explain or give us some examples of what it would look like to be assertive versus sort of hesitation or over apologizing?
Really, three main things when it comes to sounding and being and using your assertive voice. Number one is removing or cutting down on the excessive apologizing. That's when you say, I'm sorry, in every single sentence. When you say, let's say you got an email you haven't responded to right away. Hey, I'm so sorry. I'm just now getting back to you. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm just now seeing this. You cut in line by accident. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like these, you're 2 minutes late to a meeting. I am so sorry. I'm late. These every time you have these unnecessary apologies, meaning apologizing for something that is not an error, it is not a mistake, it is not something like you truly made a big problem. What it's doing is slowly cutting down on your self-esteem and your self-worth. Instead, just flip it to words of gratitude. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for giving me the time to respond to this. I'm grateful for the time to think on this. Thank you for X, Y, and Z. I let's put it in an email. Let's see, I haven't responded to somebody's email in three days. Instead of the so sorry, I'm just now getting back to this. I've just been so swamped and so busy, and I just have so many other priorities aside from you. Like that right there. Okay. Instead of that, all you need to do is say, thank you for the time to think on this. I mean, and they're going to say, oh, yeah, you're welcome. They're going to say, thank you for your patience. They're going to think, all right, you're so right. I am patient. Yes, I am. Oh, you're so welcome. Instead, just use words of gratitude. Words of gratitude instead of over apologizing. Two would be cutting down on your words, meaning I'd say something like, I hate to bother you, but, or this might be a dumb question, but every time you do that, you're just conveying the exact opposite of the message. In fact, you're inserting this mini conversation about your self-esteem, like right in between it. If somebody says, hey, I hate to bother you, what do they say? They're gonna say, oh, you're not bothering me. And then you have to be like, oh, I'm not bothering you. Are you sure? And like, no, you're not bothering me. Oh, okay. And all they think of when you're talking is, God, this bothers me. Like this, that's all they think about. Same thing with the dumb question. You say, this is gonna be a dumb question. What's the answer? Everybody says, there's no such thing as a dumb question. And then they have to go, oh, okay, well, let me ask this question. And then all it sounds like when you're asking is, this is the dumbest question I've ever heard. So it's just you're cutting down on your own self-esteem. Don't do that. You just remove it. And in fact, instead of cutting away from it, just add on to it. You say, I like to build on something of this thought, or I like to add on to. People love that kind of language because it adds on to your experience, adds on to the conversation. One thing that I've been thinking about, one thing I'd like to add. Any of that kind of stuff is going to build onto the conversation. And lastly, you want to take away or at least minimize the use of adverbs, words that end in ly, like literally, basically, essentially, or just, or so, or very. These are words that just water down your drink. If I said nothing but literally, I have one of my best friends. He begins with, so basically, right before almost every sentence, and I'll say, Matt, what's the basic part? And he'll laugh because we've talked about this. I'm trying to keep him accountable for it. But people who say clearly, he clearly didn't, or obviously, if it was clearly or obviously, you wouldn't have to say it. So those are some things that could help your assertive voice.
I love that so much because it's so practical.
Mhm.
I mean, we can all find ourselves in those
Literally.
recommendations. We can
Yeah,
literally
literally.
very much so identify with that. Um, but I love that it's actionable. We can just go do it, and it's not some kind of philosophical statement. So I think that's helpful. Um, yeah,
There's a difference between like somebody saying um, a easy sentence like I want to increase the budget, period. Or somebody saying, this is what we typically hear. So basically, what I'm thinking is, and you can totally tell me if I'm wrong, but so like, and maybe you going, what are we saying? What are we doing here? What are we saying? So
yeah.
it's much harder to filter it out, sift it out to get the actual message.
We call that in our house word salad. It
Ooh,
just
yeah,
feels like chopped salad. And like, what are these words? There's a lot of words here, but I don't really know what they mean, and they just all sort of feel mixed up. Um,
yeah.
I love this point about confidence being the reward. I will
Mhm,
often say to clients, confidence is not a prerequisite for taking the action that you need to take. And the idea
mm,
of taking assertive action that you're talking about to me is a relief because it's like, oh, I don't have to gin up this feeling of confidence that I really have no idea how to access, which feels sort of like it just magically happens sometimes and sometimes it doesn't. That's not a necessary prerequisite for doing the thing that needs to be done. And on the one hand, that means you sort of have to come to grips with I have to do this thing scared sometimes. I have to have a
Yeah.
conversation that feels scary, but it also means it's in your control instead of sort of like waiting for the fairy dust to be sprinkled on you, at which point you are now qualified to go forth and have this conversation that you don't want to have. I love that because I wish someone would have told me when I was a kid, because I think I always thought when we see people taking assertive action, they look confident. And so we assume that they
Hmm.
are confident. I don't know if I told you this when we were in Charleston. I don't think I did, but I used to have a debilitating fear of public speaking. And part of the reason that I had that fear is I wrongly assumed that all the people that I saw up on stage just loved it and were naturally great at it. Like they just rolled out of bed one day when they were 10 years old and they were just like made to keynote and they never
Hmm.
felt nervous about it. Little did I know, everybody feels nervous. It's part of what makes you
Yeah.
good at it. Once you get up there, it's fine. Like all these things, I had to test it. I tested it in front of 800 people, by the way, for the first time. So, go big or go home. But it was great
She did great.
it was great exposure therapy to realize, oh, I get the reward of feeling confident after I did the brave, assertive action. It was not necessary before. Not only was it not going to happen, but it just wasn't necessary. And I think that's such great news for people.
Yeah. It's this idea of most people are confident because they've been there before. They've done it
Right.
before.
Right.
Yeah. You're not catching them the first time they've ever done it.
Well, listen, before we wrap up with our three questions, with these fast action three questions, but before we do that, the book is called The Next Conversation: Argue Less, Talk More. You guys definitely need to buy a copy of this. I bought copies for all my clients, and it was fun to get their response. In fact, you commented, Jefferson, when you saw
I
us
did.
dishing them
Yeah.
out.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, happy to do it. But I just know it's going to be so helpful to them. But why did you call it The Next Conversation?
People often say the wrong thing in the first conversation. We
So
tend as
true.
humans to get it wrong. We tend to muck it up. And it's the next conversation that truly has the power to change everything. Yeah, if you and that other person, everything always goes wrong. You say the wrong thing. You can change everything by simply what you decide to say next. And the same thing applies with wherever you want to be in your life. The truth of it is, Michael, the people watch my videos not to change what's happened in the past. They watch the videos to change what they say next. And it's not the conversation in the past they're trying to fix, it's the next one. And that's why I named it The Next Conversation, that they can use these tools, these tips for handling the next conversation, which is going to make their life a lot better and exchange, improve their relationships.
This is a book for families. It's a book for people in the workplace. But buy multiple copies. Give it to everybody you know. What a better world we'd have,
Yeah.
both in our families and at work and the political arena and everything else. Oh, don't get me started on the political arena. If we actually had healthy conversations, and this book can help you do that. So we have this concept of the double win, winning at work
Okay.
and succeeding at life. That's our whole thing. So for you, what's your biggest obstacle, especially in this time of busyness, to getting the double win?
Oh, like a work-life balance type of
Yeah.
thing, is making sure my yeses and nos are balanced. Like I see it as like a seesaw. And
Mhm.
so that to me is my success with my life, my family, my work, as a dad, as a husband. And I need to make sure my yeses and my nos are balanced. If I have too many yeses, something else is going to suffer. If I have too many nos, something else is going to suffer. So that doesn't mean I'm just going to say I'm going to count them. It's not quantitative in some way. Maybe it's a very big yes, and that means I have to have small no's. And so that's how I see it in my brain.
Love it. I don't
That's
think we
great.
ever had anybody share that,
We
but
haven't.
that sounds great.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, next question. How do you know when you are winning at work and succeeding at life?
When you can walk in and you smile naturally,
Yeah.
when you feel like you walk in and you naturally feel enthusiastic. It's not even maybe so much enthusiastic, but there's nothing that you feel like you are dreading. I compare it to running with a
Mm,
parachute on. Okay. You feel like you have the wind in your face and you're really running and going and pursuing, or do you feel like you're dragging?
Okay, final question. What's one ritual or routine that helps you do what you do?
Oh, daily prayer. Aside from that, I I really try to do my workouts and my breathing. So I didn't learn until more recently in life, certainly more recently than I wished, how much our body plays a fact in our stress
Mhm.
and our anxiety and how that impacts our outlook on things. And so if I can get my body moving, drinking more water, and really focus on my breathing, because I didn't notice later that I'll hold my breath when I'm stressed.
Yeah.
And that definitely weighs. I mean, it's like you're truly suffocating. So realizing that I need to work on my breath, that's a great ritual.
What is your go-to workout?
Oh, so I use this thing called a tonal. It's
Yeah.
like it's oh my gosh.
The thing that
Yeah,
hangs on the
it's
wall and has all the little stuff on it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, remember small town, we have one gym. And the weights in that gym are so rusted. And it's everybody's there, it's fine. It's one of those things where it's like I need to drive there, make sure I'm back in time for the kids. We have early morning, blah blah blah. This tonal is awesome, and I've had more progress on that than anything. And you can just do it right there in your home. So I'm a big
Yeah.
fan.
Jefferson, thank you so much for spending this time with us. I think
Thank you.
this has been enormously helpful, and I'm a big fan of the book. I hope you sell a gazillion copies.
Thank you very much. I think we're 3 weeks on the list so far, so we're excited.
That's exciting.
I checked last night, and it was number 5, I think, on the New York Times list, which is no small
Yeah.
thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, very, very blessed. So very excited. Well, I hope I get to see y'all soon.
Yeah.
Hoping I get up to Tennessee here in a little bit.
Great. Well,
Well,
call
we'd love to
us.
see you.
We'll eat more oysters together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, better alert the fire department. All right,
That's
cool.
right.
Thanks,
Bye,
buddy.
guys.
Okay, I feel like I need to reread the book about 4 or 5 more times
Yeah.
because, man, I have a hard time remembering this stuff in the heat of the battle. But I know that when I do, it really works. Like that whole tip about just taking a beat,
Yeah.
just letting your pause or your breath be your first word is so it's easier to remember because of the way that he frames it,
Mhm.
but it's so important.
It's really important.
I can remember when Will Guidara was on our show. And did you
Yes.
remember how thoughtful he was?
Yes, and the other person who's like that is Brené Brown. Like if you've she's not really podcasting, I don't think anymore, but when she was podcasting, if you listen to her in an interview, and often her guests would ask her a question, and she would say frequently something like, I got to think about that for a minute. And then she would pause, and you're like, Brené, are you still there? Like, did something happen? Because she would almost awkwardly pause for an extended period of time, but then she would come back with a really thoughtful answer. And I remember thinking at the time, I need to learn from that. What a great discipline to have.
Well, and one of the things he talks about in the book, I mean, this is how nuanced it is. He says you can have different lengths of pauses for different situations. A 1 to 4 second pause is different than a 5 to 8 second pause,
Mm,
and it communicates something totally different.
yeah.
But Jefferson's very self aware, and he really pays a lot of attention to the non-verbal part of communication, which all of us have learned, is the most significant part of it.
Yeah.
But to me, I've never read a book that was more practical
Mhm.
in terms of what you actually do in these situations to keep from, igniting and, just overreacting and escalating the argument. So yeah, I just love the book so much.
It made me think, I wish he would do a conference and pull people up there, and have them role play. Um, because I think that would be so powerful to just see where we go wrong and catch ourselves in real time. That could be a really
Well,
helpful
just
exercise.
hitchhiking on that, I thought when he was talking, I thought what I'd like to see similar to that is a boot camp
Right.
where you go and he has a whole bunch of certified coaches that work with you and you role play
Yeah.
until you get it down.
Jefferson, we have your business all figured out.
Yeah, we got your business all figured out. So you can imagine, for example, one of those for couples.
Yeah.
Like if you'd had this at the beginning of your marriage,
Would have
mean,
been so helpful.
it would have been so helpful because we literally did everything wrong. And the only reason that we're still together is because we stumbled into a lot of this stuff.
Not the two of us, in case you're just new to
Yeah,
the
yeah.
show. We
My
are
wife
father
and I.
and daughter.
That's
But
right.
yes, although that would have been helpful for father and daughter too.
Oh, it sure would have been.
Anybody.
Anybody.
One of the things that made me think about was how when Joel and I got married, and he has said this for as recently as, a week ago, but for him, kind of his rule of relationships is kindness, like in conversations with me in particular. And that has really impacted how we relate to each other and how we avoid damaging conflicts. Of course, we still have conflict, but he always will come back to a place of kindness and will choose to not try to win. And it has diffused so many things for us over the years. He's honestly better at it than I am a lot.
It's so good.
And I think it's unusual. And I think Jefferson's advice on that is spot on.
You know who I've learned a lot from is your sister, Mary.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like she's really good in these situations, and probably because she's blown it in the past, like all of us have.
Right.
But she's really been a student of it.
Yeah.
And she's coached me on this some, and it's been helpful.
Mm-hmm.
But man, this is the textbook. And I hope he does take all those Instagram videos where he gives you those short little videos. And I would love a desktop reference.
Like with little tabs that you could just flip to.
So if like I'm about to go into a high stakes conversation with a narcissist, that I could, kind of look at the tripwires and the mistakes.
Yeah,
and
that would
the things
be
I
so
want to
helpful.
avoid. So yeah, I don't know that many narcissists, but when I do.
When you do, you really do. You need a special
They kind of fill up the
playbook.
room.
Yeah, they certainly do. Well, this is a fantastic book by a fantastic guy, and everybody needs to read it.
Yep.
I didn't ask him, but I don't know if he reads the book
He does.
himself.
He does.
Okay, great. Well, he has
Yeah, I've
such a
been
great,
listening to the audio too.
he has such a great voice, so that would even be extra fun.
Okay, the next conversation, argue less, talk more, Jefferson Fisher, wherever better books are sold. Guys, it would be an enormous help to us if you would review the show. And if not that, just rate it. That helps too. But it'll help us to get the word out. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.